It's in the email.
It's 4 p.m. on Monday, October 13th, 2025, and I will call the City Council study session to order. We do not take comment during study sessions, but there's no one in the audience. And if Councilmember Hall would lead us in the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then just want to note for the record that all council is present with the exception of Councilmember Strader. And then for staff, we have Planning Manager Stallnecker, Director Madden, Interim Director Robeck, Chief Hernandez, and City Clerk Tricia Summers. Council, we have one item on the agenda this evening. It is the presentation of the 2026 budget. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Interim Director Robeck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we'll be presenting the 2026 preliminary budget. This is the first presentation of the 2026 budget, but there will be additional presentations on November 10th, November 17th, and lastly on December 1st for final approval. I do have some prepared information to present, but please feel free to stop me at any time for questions, clarification, or additional information. So let's dive right in. A few great places to start to get an overall view of the 2026 budget are the Mayor's budget message on pages 1 through 6 and the citywide budget summary on page 13. Both of these show a summary of all funds, and the Mayor's budget message highlights many of the changes included in the 2026 budget. So, starting on page 1, the first page of the Mayor's budget message. Total proposed expenditures for 2026 are 9.2% lower than the previous year. This is primarily due to decreased expenditures in the Capital Improvement Fund, as well as in the electric capital and water capital funds. These decreases total about $2.6 million, with the largest decrease of about $1.6 million in the Capital Improvement Fund. Transfers out to the Capital Improvement Fund from the Real Estate Excise Tax, Traffic Impact Fee, and Parks Impact Fee funds are $1.9 million lower as well. Budget decreases in these funds reflect the efforts made in 2025 and plan for 2026 to continue and complete capital projects that have already been initiated. Next, on page 2, total proposed revenues for 2026 are 3% lower than the previous year. This is primarily due to decreased revenues totaling about $3.8 million in the Asset Replacement Fund and Capital Improvement Funds. Decreased revenues in the Capital Improvement Fund are a result of decreased transfers in from the Real Estate Excise Tax, Traffic Impact Fee, and Parks Impact Fee funds, as well as the drawing down of grant funds as ongoing projects are completed. Decreased revenues in the Asset Replacement Fund are due to decreased transfers in from the general fund for future property acquisition. The city's labor agreement with non-uniformed and non-exempt employees will expire at the end of 2025 and is in the process of negotiation. So these wages have been increased by the CPI-U of 2.7% for 2026. Exempt employee wages have been increased by 2.7% as well. As in previous years, wages for all employees have been budgeted at the top step of each pay range, and benefits have been budgeted at the highest applicable rates for all employees. These changes affected wages and benefits in all operating funds. This is just a summary of some of the biggest changes, so let's move on to some of the larger funds. A summary of the general fund can be found on page 22. And expenditures in this fund increased a total of about $124,000 or 1.6%. Primarily due to increased expenditures in the judicial, municipal court, and park facilities departments. Expenditures in the Judicial Municipal Court Department increased by about $109,000, largely as a result of municipal court cost increases from the city of Puyallup. Park Facilities Department expenditures increased primarily due to increased professional services and public utilities. Also in the general fund, total transfers out decreased slightly, but some noteworthy changes are included. Transfers out to the Criminal Justice Fund for Police Department operations increased by $400,000, and transfers out to the Rainy Day Fund increased by about $13,000. The increased transfer out to the Rainy Day Fund raises the fund's balance to the city's target of 10% of budgeted general fund operating expenditures. A $100,000 transfer to the Asset Replacement Fund is also budgeted to continue accumulating funds to acquire property for parks, open space, and city facilities when opportunities arise. This transfer will bring the total amount of funds accumulated for future property acquisition to $600,000. Revenues in the general fund increased a total of about $265,000, or 4.5%. Property taxes have been increased by 1% over projected amounts for 2025, and sales taxes have been increased by 1% over budgeted amounts for 2025. Sales taxes exceeded budgeted amounts in 2025 as a result of increased construction in the city, but these revenues are budgeted conservatively in 2026 to account for possible slowing construction activity. Other taxes and investment earnings have been budgeted according to current trends. The 2026 budget does project a general fund balance reduction. However, this fund's balance has been growing over the last several years. Starting in 2020 at 1.3 million, it's grown to about 5.7 million at the end of 2024. The budgeted ending fund balance for 2026 of about 3.1 million is equal to 40% of budgeted expenditures. This is still significantly above the minimum fund balance target of 8%. Unless there are any questions, we can move on to the Criminal Justice Fund. Does anyone have any questions on the general fund? Okay. Let's move on to the Criminal Justice Fund. A summary of this fund can be found on page 42. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $298,000 or 6.2%. Much of this increase is associated with increased wages and benefits. In 2026, one patrol officer and a vehicle have been added, and a portion of one patrol officer's wages and benefits has been allocated to the Traffic Safety Camera Fund for time spent reviewing infractions. These changes are intended to address increased workload and community requests, as well as to enhance the level of service provided to residents and businesses. Police wages also increased by 3% in accordance with the current labor agreement. Revenues in this fund increased by about $405,000, nearly all of which is due to increased transfers in from the general fund. Does anyone have any questions on the Criminal Justice Fund? Okay. We will move on to the Street Fund next. A summary of this fund can be found on page 47. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $23,000, primarily due to increased salaries and wages, as well as supplies and services expenditures, including fuel, small tools and equipment, and repairs and maintenance. Revenues in this fund decreased by about $6,000, nearly all of which is due to reduced motor vehicle fuel taxes. Unless anyone has any questions, we will move on to the Traffic Safety Camera Fund. On page 51. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $377,000 or 92.6%. This fund is used to account for revenues and expenditures from the city's automated traffic safety camera program initiated in 2025. The budgeted amounts for 2025 represent 6 months of activity, and the increases in 2026 reflect a full year of operations. In 2026, the municipal court judge will become an employee due to increased hours and activity resulting from the new program. This increase in wages and benefits is reported in the traffic safety camera fund as well. Transfers out to the capital improvement fund for traffic safety activities have also been budgeted in this fund. Traffic safety activities may include crosswalks, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, as well as most of the items identified in the city's traffic calming program adopted in 2024, such as rumble strips, warning and guidance signage, curb extensions, roundabout, speed humps, median islands, and illumination. Revenues in this fund increased by about $1.3 million as a result of anticipated full program implementation. Budgeted amounts reflect 6 months of activity in 2025 and a full year of operations in 2026.
Councilmember Cedar?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Finance Director, or Interim Finance Director. So I just want to understand a little bit about how money moves out of that fund to fund these projects. I understand the limitations, statutory limitations there. My read is that I think the way we've set up our traffic calming safety program, the engineering studies that we've contemplated would also be viable candidates for these funds. Would you agree?
I think that you could argue that they could be a candidate for these funds. The language in the RCW leaves room for interpretation. It just says traffic safety activities and then gives some examples, but also leaves it open to interpretation. So if those, or traffic safety, construction of traffic safety activities. So I think if you could link those studies to where we're placing the different items, or where we're building the different items, I think, yes, they could be included.
Okay, yeah, and I think I will be prepared to make that argument that that's how we should be doing it, because we've set up a very rigid system for how we implement these changes. It would be silly, and I doubt it's legislative intent to just have the funds pay for the raw materials, for instance, for it. So I appreciate your opinion there. As far as getting the funds from this to that, I'm just trying to think logistically. I mean, is there some secondary check that happens, or where is the, I guess, oversight for that expenditure?
How those are spent. As part of an audit several years ago, actually before my time, they asked that we build basically a spreadsheet, a running spreadsheet for each year to identify how the different restricted funds are being spent in the capital improvement fund. Because the likelihood is that all of the eligible expenditures will be paid for from the capital improvement fund. So it's just a tracking of how much of the impact fees were spent in a particular year, or a running total, separated by year, how much impact fees were spent, how much REIT was spent, and this would be added to basically that running total spreadsheet to make sure that we're applying the revenues to eligible projects appropriately.
Thank you. And then I think I have a sub point, maybe more appropriate for Chief. Is Chief, how do we, we're obviously allowed to use the traffic camera safety fund for the administration of the device, which includes your personnel. What kind of oversight do you have internally to ensure that the time is being tracked so that we're not going over or under?
Yeah, well, our finance is going to require a time study. So we're going to have to keep track of the time spent so that we can truth and verify what is the accounting for our time. And so that's how they're going to do it. Right now, splitting the officer in half, and anticipate that based on the amount of infractions that are going to be generated, talking with the vendor, they say, estimate 1 minute to review the video and do the approval. And so then we extrapolate the time commitment to that. And so right now we're at about 5 hours for a reviewing officer Monday through Friday, and then the other 5 hours of that time, that officer would be out doing traffic. And so we're creating this traffic enforcement position from the administrative level all the way to out on the street, and paying for half of that position with the time that's allocated that we indicate in our time study that will be given to finance, so that if there is an audit of the funds, that they can say, yes, this time was spent doing these activities.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I appreciate all the work that has gone into this. I think this is a program that's probably subject to a lot of scrutiny. So I just want to make sure we're doing it right. Sounds like you guys have obviously thought it through. I look forward to, I think this will probably be a fund that we adjust more. I mean, I guess it's still on the quarterly cycle though for adjustments, right?
That for budget adjustments or?
Yeah, budget adjustments.
Yeah, well, it's not, we don't have a strict quarterly cycle, but we do tend to look at that about quarterly, when, like, as we're doing the financial, or not financial, the quarterly actual to budget presentation. I'm looking at those quarterly. We don't necessarily always need to make adjustments quarterly, but absolutely, I agree with you that this is kind of a stab at what we think it's going to look like, and that there probably will be some adjustments.
And I was just going to say, we do in our leadership meetings go over our budgets with the mayor, and we talk about it, and Michelle's present at those meetings, and so we're constantly watching the budget, and if we think it's appropriate, we push the director to do a budget amendment if necessary, or we wait it out depending on what we're seeing. But again, there is this leadership collaboration that happens at the mayor's level.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Councilmember Hall?
So this new position, is it going to be only traffic safety? Or will it pull in if you've got an emergency, if you've got something going on that's priority?
Well, if we have an emergency, no matter who you are, including myself, you always have to have people available to respond to back up other officers. But they're not going to be put in the call rotation, so to speak. And so the way that it works is when an officer signs into duty, they go into the call rotation, dispatch knows to dispatch that officer to a call, and then once he's been dispatched, or she, it jumps to the next officer and to the next officer. The traffic enforcement officer is not going to be involved in that call rotation. The intent, again, of creating a traffic enforcement officer is that they're going to be more trained than the average officer. They're going to be responsible for doing DUIs, collisions, fatalities, being part of the regional response team for serious injury collisions, and then this administrative function that happens on a daily basis of reviewing the infractions and stuff like that. So we're trying to cast a wide umbrella over our traffic problem, along with the study that's been done through Public Works and so forth. And then that officer, as well as myself, we constantly collaborate back on the reports that are being generated from the cameras and from the mobile center the radar unit that we put out. Director Madden's staff always sends us a copy of that report. And so because obviously one of the other concerns is that we're going to push traffic onto the other streets. And so we're going to be monitoring that and getting reports and seeing whether or not we're seeing problems on our side streets. Did that answer your question?
You did. It was perfect, in fact. So as he or she comes on, we'll get a study of what the percentage, because we don't really know how much time it is. We're going to need to know if that's enough
Right.
for a traffic officer, or is it not enough? I mean, it would be nice to know that.
Right. And that will be something we hope to recover at least half of that officer's time through the camera system, but that might not be the case. We might be less, we might be more.
Yeah.
We might need to,
By the looks of yesterday on Milton Way up by the park, I think he's going to be busy.
yeah.
Chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the person that's doing this job is necessarily not the new person. It could be anyone on staff.
That is my intent.
Okay.
And part of that is that right now we are staffed at capacity because Officer Haney is not on the books because he's deployed, but he has voiced that he will be returning in March. And so if we do not have this additional position, then we'd end up rifting a police officer. So my intent right now, and we've already spoken to the officer that we've selected for this position, we put it out because one of the things we said is that you have to have demonstrated that you're interested in traffic. And there are officers that have high interest in traffic. And so we've selected an officer that basically is our highest hitter when it comes to doing traffic stops and infractions and enforcement. And really, really that's his thing, is traffic enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the information, but I've got a couple of questions. Do you have any data right now that you could provide us with the currency of what's happening? Everybody's getting a warning if they break the law. How many warnings have gone out?
I won't know. Hopefully I'll know tomorrow, because tomorrow is when we're having our training for, we're creating layers of depth within the department for the program. And so the assistant chief, myself, a sergeant, and then the traffic officer, and then the administrative assistant also. So we are going to be getting that trained tomorrow. And so we'll be able to take a look at what we've collected so far.
What is the depth of the program on collection right now? When does that end? When does ticketing start?
At 30 days from when we started it, which was last Monday.
Last Monday.
Yeah,
So the information you have is less than a week or about a week.
Correct.
So forth. Be interesting just to know what the frequency and what is seen. I don't want to know who is doing it. I would just like to know what we capture on camera and what the benefit to the city and so forth. I suspect is going to be significant, or at least pay for itself. So it's just nice to have a running update of infractions or type of infractions.
and the program, the cameras on the back office, that has the ability to generate those reports. So we'll be able to provide those reports to council and to the Public Safety Committee.
That would be wonderful, just to see how productive it is. So I'm looking for a lot of change, because I drive Milton Way a lot, and I could tell you how many people I think on the 15 minutes or so forth that I drive and so forth are infracting. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So how long do you think, short term, do you think you can start picking up trends? You know, are you looking at, do you think in a month once it starts, in 3 months, 6
I
months?
mean, it's capturing the information right now. So my hope would be within every month, we're going to be reviewing it, and we're going to be looking at and I'm generating the reports. We have the ability to automatically generate these reports. So it's not very laborious. It should be rather easy. So right away. I mean, we're gathering it right now.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Whalen?
Just one more.
Yeah.
And this is reflected to Public Works. I had mentioned about inhibiting the school zone lighting by a piece of shrubbery that is on, and that still remains. I suspect that that's going to clear up, so that it's a clear line of sight for the individual, as opposed to being blocked by a piece of shrubbery that invades over the.
Yes, that'll be cleaned up. And I think it's a branch from the adjacent tree.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And also appreciated that on 16th and Milton Way, there was a shrubbery that impacted the downward view. Has been removed. That's appreciated. Thank you.
All right, moving on.
Okay, moving on to the Electric Utility Fund on page 59. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $114,000, primarily due to increases in salaries and wages, transfers out, and supplies and services expenditures, including utility tax, excise tax, and allocated operating expenditures. Revenues in this fund increased by about $354,000, nearly all of which is due to increased investment earnings and electric sales revenue. which has been increased by 3.8% of 2024 actual amounts. This increase per Milton Municipal Code is equal to the previous year's CPIU. Revenues in the electric capital improvement and asset replacement funds are increased as a result of this rate increase as well. Next up is the water utility fund on page 66. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $140,000, primarily due to increased supplies and services expenditures, including public utilities, utility tax, excise tax, and allocated operating expenditures. Water quality professional services also includes an increase of $20,000 for a water softening feasibility analysis. Salaries and wages and transfers out include moderate increases as well. Revenues in this fund increased by about $294,000, nearly all of which is due to increased investment earnings and water sales revenue, which has been increased by 9% of 2024 actual amounts. This increase was established through the water utility rate study completed in 2023, and revenues in the water capital improvement and asset replacement funds are increased as a result of this rate increase as well. Moving on to the stormwater utility fund on page 75. Expenditures in this fund increased by about $53,000. Much of this increase is due to increased supplies and services expenditures, including professional services, utility tax, and vehicle repairs and maintenance. Transfers out increased slightly as well. Revenues in this fund increased by about $104,000, primarily due to increased storm drainage fees revenue, which has been increased by 17% of 2024 actual amounts. This increase was established through the stormwater utility rate study completed in 2024, and revenues in the capital improvement and asset replacement funds are increased as a result of this rate increase as well. Unless there are any questions about any of the operating funds, let's go back a few pages to the real estate excise tax and impact fee funds.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I'm just noticing throughout all these enterprise funds that the personnel benefits cost is going down, and I'm just wondering what's causing that.
It's primarily a contribution rate decrease for the Department of Retirement Systems. I noticed the same thing and double-checked and triple-checked, and we had a large employer contribution rate decrease this year. That is the primary portion of why you're seeing some of those benefits reducing instead of increase. There was also a moderate decrease in the labor and industries rates. I know, it seems shocking.
It is odd, yes.
Those, the retirement systems rates, they do change those on a regular basis, so we do see those fluctuate. Okay, in the REIT and impact fee funds, those start on page 52 and go through page 55. These funds finance current and future projects in the capital improvement fund through transfers out. And the 2026 budget presents good balances in each of these funds. The REIT 1 fund has about we're projecting we'll have about $578,000 ending fund balance. REIT 2, about $519,000. The traffic impact fees, we're projecting we'll have about a $583,000 ending fund balance at the end of 2026. And the park impact fees, about an $87,000 ending fund balance. So those will help fund future projects. Moving on to the capital improvement fund on page 58. This fund has decreased expenditures of about 1.6 million, reflecting the efforts made in 2025 and planned for 2026 to continue and complete capital projects that have already been initiated. Just to go through a few projects from 2025, several capital improvement projects have been completed or initiated. The SR 99 Porterway intersection project is expected to be fully completed by the end of this year. This project added much-needed capacity to the intersection and pedestrian improvements along Porterway. The city also began work on additional sidewalk improvements along Porterway, funded with a grant from the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board. The outdoor meeting venue at Milton Community Park was also completed in 2025. This project was partially funded with coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds from the American Rescue Plan Act and will provide a covered, well-ventilated space for city meetings and gatherings, as well as other community events. A mural on the water tower at the community park was completed in 2025 as well. The mural was funded with an appropriation from the Pierce County Council and depicts the historic high dive at Surprise Lake. This artwork celebrates the city's history and will also help protect and extend the life of the tower's exterior. In addition to the mural, the Pierce County Council appropriation will help fund the installation of new signage and wayfinding in various city parks. Many of the larger capital improvement fund projects budgeted for 2026 address priorities expressed by the city council and community, such as street maintenance, traffic calming, sidewalks, and parks improvements. Some of these projects include the citywide parks improvements, interurban trail extension, playground equipment, citywide traffic calming program, miscellaneous street overlay, Porterway sidewalk improvements, sidewalk missing links, and then another of the larger projects is the City Hall retrofit. Revenues in the Capital Improvement Fund decreased by about 3.4 million, which is largely a result of the drawing down of Transportation Improvement Board grant funds associated with the SR 99 Porterway intersection project. Transfers in from the real estate excise tax, traffic impact fees, and parks impact fees funds decreased by a combined total of about 1.9 million as well. Does anyone have any questions?
Councilmember Hall?
How about the sidewalks and parking for Oak Street, for the city park?
Yes, there is a project under Storm Capital identified as Oak Street, and then the rest of it will be a combination of different funds from Missing Link, sidewalks, park improvements, and then other relevant storm facility funds.
So will we have enough funds in this budget to complete that?
We don't know yet because we haven't been able to get an estimate on total construction costs, but we're going in the right direction. We're saving funds, and at a minimum, we'll be able to start part of it in 2026. We may need to phase it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Cedar?
Can you speak to what other missing links we're looking at realistically for 26?
Yes, 23rd is a project that we've been actively working on. Many of our sidewalk missing link projects at this point are still missing links because they are complicated. They have right-of-way acquisition involved with them or negotiation with property owners to make those installations happen. So 23rd and Oak Street are my goals for 2026. And then as other opportunities present themselves, we submitted a grant that's still under review for Milton Way that would connect all the way from Fife up to our existing sidewalk connection. If we were able to receive that grant, we would elevate that project and move it forward also.
Fantastic. Any, I guess I'm interested in your current thoughts on 28th.
28th, we're looking at applying our traffic calming funds to that. And then the hillside on 28th is going to receive a partial sidewalk in the very near future related to private build. I think it's a in-home daycare. We'll also be looking at, we'll do a study on speed humps for 28th.
Oh, interesting, on the downhill slope?
Probably right in, typically you put them side by side, and so it would be both for uphill and downhill. And if we put it in the middle of the slope, that should minimize volume and speed.
How about at the other end of, gosh, is it 27th there, like closer to Milton Way, where there's the tight right-of-way? I mean, there's a big right-of-way issue there, I think.
There is. Anjali and I are working with a developer right behind Sherwin-Williams. And is that the correct location?
Yeah.
So there'll be some new sidewalk coming in there as far as the developer contributed frontage improvements. And then we'll continue to extend and connect that sidewalk on 27th.
Zooming out a little bit to a budgetary question, we have money in our general fund, right? We have a healthy general fund, as Finance Director pointed out a moment ago. Is this a question of throwing enough money at a project, or a question of capacity for city staff in getting these missing links done?
Yeah, good question. I think in the past, it's been financial constraints. Now with this new program that will increase the amount of revenue coming in for traffic calming and facility improvements, potentially in 27, 28, we could be at a capacity issue where, we may need a project manager position if and when it comes to that point to continue these sidewalk installations and become more aggressive. But it's kind of it's a scaling problem right now because we don't really know how much revenue is going to come in off the traffic calm or traffic safety cameras.
And then also just looking for an update, I see the trail extension, interurban trail extension on here as a pretty specific amount, I assume, because of a specific grant fund.
Correct.
My last recollection is a little hazy, but I recall that some of the grant fund was in jeopardy as we were waiting on WashDOT or something like that. Can you just kind of give us an update of where we are?
You're absolutely right. Those funds, we had approximately 400,000. They were in jeopardy, highly scrutinized, administered by WashDOT, and that was part of a PED safety grant. Those funds were returned, and the mayor and myself and our team put together a request for legislative support, and that was granted. And it was a big swing. So you see that 755,000. That is 100% engineering funded. So the problem that we were in before with not having enough money, that has been alleviated.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Appreciate the work here.
Any other questions? Plan Manager Stallnecker, we can add 19th to that missing link project, right, with the potential development there on 19th and Emerald? Is that 19th
Yes.
and Emerald? Yeah, so that will complete that whole loop with that development.
It will. It'll connect Hill Tower. That development, when it goes in, will connect Hill Tower Park to Emerald, and then the corner of Emerald and 19th up to the existing sidewalk, as you stated. So yes, it'll connect.
All right, moving on.
Okay. Next up is the Electric Capital Fund on page 64. Budgeted expenditures in this fund decreased by about 397,000. Some of the larger projects scheduled for 2026 include substation and design and distribution improvements and the pole replacement project. Next up is the Water Capital Fund on page 73. Expenditures in this fund decreased by about 564,000. Some of the larger projects scheduled for 2026 include the new deep well, the Porterway water main improvements, Juniper Street water main replacement, and meter replacement. And lastly is the Stormwater Capital Fund on page 79. Budgeted expenditures in this fund increased by about 18,000, and the largest project scheduled for 2026 is the Oak Street storm improvements that Director Madden referred to earlier. This does bring me to the end of my prepared presentation. So at this time, I'd like to take any questions, comments, or requests for additional information.
Mayor Protem?
Thank you. As small as it is, as I was going through, I was looking for the contract grant writer that we have. Where is that reflected?
That is in the Facilities and Central Services Department.
Is it just rolled in?
It is rolled into
'Cause it's not-
professional services.
It's not line itemed.
Let's see. Oops. Guess we can shut that down. Oops, I guess you can see me, you can see me working here, but that's okay. I think.
Yeah. It's rolled in.
Yes, it's in the professional services. There's a budget of 20,000 in professional services in the Facilities and Central Services Department, which can be found on page 32.
Councilmember Hall?
On the wage scale page on page 14, it says FTE 54. And then last year's it said 52. I know we're adding one. Did we add one this year? Or?
We did, because of the increased workload and days that the municipal court is open and court activity, we need to make the judge an employee in
That was my
2026.
question. Okay, okay, got it.
Any other questions? Councilmember Whalen?
I've got two kind of spread out questions. One, it's a little hard to determine all the projects and so forth that'll be taken care of next year. But we have a situation at the memorial. And is that scheduled to be corrected?
Yes.
Will be corrected?
It will be finished by the end of my term. I signed off on the invoice today.
Okay.
Our project manager, Val, and Director Madden have been working with me and been very patient with my revisions, but I think it will solve the issue. It will solve the issue and the concern you have, while making it also safe from a risk management standpoint, because they won't be standing straight up metal pieces. It will be plaques that are angled in the ground. So I did sign off on that today.
It's been about a 3-year consideration.
Yes, yes.
So you can't find that in these documents and so forth, so it's a question. The other is, are we going to repair the sign on the side of this building? And are we going to clear the visibility range? That's about a 3-year thought that the council has, and we've spoken about it. Is that included in the budget for next year?
Yes, I believe it is in our budget. Director Madden, I saw it in our budget, correct?
Yes, it's under the City Hall retrofit project, and I want to say that we budgeted 25. That was the last quote I had received, and that is taking out the neon, which is problematic, and it's difficult to find someone to work on, and replacing that with LED lights and painting at the same time.
And I say that because that picture is the history of Milton.
Absolutely, it's important.
It's important, and so are we going to be able to do anything with the visual concept? There's trees and so forth, which I believe is on right-of-way. I don't think it's on private property. Is that going to be cleared a bit so that you can still see that sign as you used to from 99?
We don't currently have that scoped under the City Hall retrofit, but we do have some available funds in the street department for clearing of trees, and that's something we can look at.
Well, please do, because if we do something to improve the sign and nobody can see it beyond the tree line across the street, it's not a good way to spend our money,
Understood.
just to, to open that up. It's something I've been talking about for about 3 years, and glad to hear that there's something going, so, thank you. One other thing. I like the little handout, but my notes were all on this. So if there's something new like this before it comes to council, can we have it prior to council to review it?
We will do our best.
Sorry?
We will do our best.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Interim Director Robeck or any other directors or myself? Okay, so we will bring this back in 4 weeks, 5 weeks? November study session? Yeah.
November 10th. Yeah.
So in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but we'll bring this back next study session. Okay, that's all we had on our agenda this evening, so we are adjourning our meeting at 4:46 p.m.